Hey guys, this is James, and I drink poo.
This is Danny from TV. That was a little, that was not planned.
That was off the cuff.
That was off the cuff, impromptu. And we are here for episode 107.
Yes, we are.
So, what do we got today, James?
Yeah, so Denny had mentioned to me maybe a week or two ago that he liked raw pu'erh, or more aged raw pu'erh,
Right.
But you just don't have a lot of it, right?
Right.
So I think the next couple episodes we're going to explore a little bit of different raw pu'erh options. So this one comes from Yunnan Sourcing,
Sure.
and the Yunnan Sourcing raw pu'erhs that have age tend to be more humidly stored raw pu'erhs, but not super humid, so they tend to be very clean. I found that Scott often opts for cleanness. So they may not be as dark or as brown as some of the raw pu'erhs that seem to borderline on ripe.
Right.
But they will be significantly less biting than your young raw pu'erhs.
So, what is the specific pu'erh that we're having today?
Yeah, so we're having the 2004 Nanjian Phoenix Aroma raw pu'erh.
Wow.
Which is a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. So this is 11 years old, but it's coming from material that is normally not what you would associate with a raw.
Yeah. All right, have a sniff.
But it smells like a raw, that's for sure.
Yep. So this was aged in Linsong, I believe, so a region in Yunnan, which is somewhat tropical, from what I understand.
We gotta go.
I know.
And so you can do 2 rinses, 1 rinse.
Yeah, we'll do 2 rinses, and for some of these teas, you could do 1 rinse or 2, but the tea starts to really hit its stride, like 4 or 5 steeps in. So for the sake of TDB, I think we'll usually stick with that 2 rinse style.
Right. But for you folks at home, if you have something that you're really fond of, or you have a small amount of, or it's a little bit pricey, then, maybe you have a little bit of sediment in that first steeping, but...
I mean, drink that sediment. We drink poo anyway, so... Just gonna go all out with bad puns today.
Yeah.
Sniff at that.
I'm noticing that the amount of leaf you're using here is actually not insane, let's put it that way.
Oh,
I
think it'll start to become more insane as we progress. But yes, right now it's filling up maybe a little bit less than half of the Gaiwan. So.
Yeah, it smells great.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, there's this peaty, smoky, petroleum, gasoline, gas station sort of smell that you get out of this that has it's similar to maybe kind of like some of those Scottish scotches that you guys have had before, but this is such a unique flavor profile that I feel like it is the only thing on earth that tastes like this is raw pu'erh. And I just encourage you folks who have yet to try raw pu'erh to really give it a shot. It's very different. It's probably not going to be the most amenable for your first go at it, but I like it a lot.
And there's also a huge range in raw pu'erh. But yeah, cheers.
Give it a shot. Cheers.
It's going to be hot.
How do you combat the hotness?
You wait, or you slurp hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
That
you
was
do both.
I was going to say.
Or you burn your tongue.
Yeah, you probably do a little bit of all three.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I've actually gotten better at the slurp to not burn the living hell out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Almost like from necessity. But yeah, this is really good.
Survival of the fittest.
That's a very, I'm getting like a very bitter aftertaste on the tip of my tongue.
Mm.
And not like I don't know, it's not astringent, not tanniny rather, but...
Yeah. And I think we might be getting a little bit of end of the sample bag syndrome as we are at the end of it. So I think we are getting a little bit more bits and crumbs. The tea is looks very unappealing from the dry leaf. And I remember it looking a little bit better when I sessioned this before.
Got it. And the reasoning there is that at the end of the bag, we're going to have a lot more of that fine particulate and just all of the tea, even though it's a fluffy product, can crack, and slowly, especially the more that you have, the more likely you are at the end of it to get those kind of little...
Got more beat up, and...
Right.
Yeah, so just tend towards a bitter brew. So one thing you can do to combat that is just keep those steep times real low.
I'm noticing that it's going from more of a yellow-orange to more of a deeper red-orange.
Yep.
That was nice. For a first steeping, that was very flavorful already, so... You eat some of that tea right there. All right, cheers, y'all. Something. It's not. It's almost like this is sweet by virtue of it not being really bitter. Interestingly enough, I'm having a hard time placing what is the sweetness of this, but it's definitely...
It's like a little bit fruity, but it's not as fruity as a lot of other teas.
Right, exactly.
So it becomes trickier to place.
Yeah, I get a little bit of like that, like sour cherry flavor, just a hint of it, and then that bitterness comes back very slowly on the tip of my tongue again, for me at least, at the end of the... end of this, which is really actually nice. So.
And like you said, there is definitely some peatiness and smokiness to this tea. And I think that's probably true of just kind of these more factory productions.
But still, I'm actually surprised at how sweet this is. I mean, absolutely it has that smoky, earthy intensity, the characteristic of raw. But yeah,
Have a smell of this. I think the aroma is quite nice.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, much more perfumey.
Yeah, much sweeter smells than it is in actual taste.
Yeah.
I suspect that might have to do with the end of the bag as well.
Interesting. And do you think this tea has more time to really develop and change, or is it going to maintain a similar taste profile?
You know, I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've sessioned this tea, but I do remember it having reasonable longevity, and similar color to last time, maybe even a little bit lighter.
Feeling the raw pu'erh now. Woo! Sometimes I get like a little bit of like a frontal lobe sort of stuff going on, you know?
Yeah.
Superpowers engaged.
And also, this tea really sticks in your mouth, and that's definitely characteristic of raw pu'erh.
Right.
You just like tasting it all over.
But it's not like it's that tannin-y...
Well, it could be if it's bad, but not for this tea.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
A little bit more of those, I feel like I want to call it like sort of bitter stone fruits. So it has sort of that bitter-sweet category of stone fruits rather than just being sweet.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely good. Nice little bit of minerals. It's kind of little bit salty. But, yeah, for the most part, just getting a little bit of those hints of fruit and kind of nice longevity on this.
Yeah. What do you think this tea would have tasted like when it was 2 years old?
Probably just a lot more bitter and a lot less balanced.
Mm-hmm.
But probably similar flavors. I wouldn't think, and I don't know, but I wouldn't think that the sweetness and the sort of fruity notes we're talking about would disappear or come to this tea from age. But I don't really know. I'm not an expert. So, How about you? What do you think?
Yeah. You know, I think you're mainly right. I suspect that those smoky, peaty notes would be even stronger.
Right.
Then. But I do think a lot of the sweetness has come through like the fermentation over time. And it may have had some fruity notes to it early on, but I think those have become more and more emphasized. And there's a little bit of woodiness that comes into this tea too. It's not much, but I would expect that would grow perhaps as this continued to age.
Yeah. It's almost like that woodiness is sort of the opposite of crisp.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of like how coffee has this kind of bitter crispness to it, this kind of like acidic bitterness to it, and this has this sort of like kind of more of like a bitter thump. Whatever that means. I don't know what that means, but it's true. It's kind of like it's more of a lasting deeper bitterness. It reminds me more of like how dark chocolate kind of just hangs out in your mouth and almost like, yeah, it kind of like coats your palate. It makes it all just sort of feel like a little bit bitter and yeah.
Yeah, so like the really lasting mouth effects.
I'm still tasting the tea from the last session, for instance, or last cup. So,
would this be a difficult tea for you to drink, like in the morning or on an empty stomach?
Most definitely, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just by virtue of having a couple cups and feeling a little bit of the effects of the energy of the tea already, I gotta think that it would be wildly stimulating and probably a little rough on my stomach at that point.
Okay.
But most tea in the morning, first thing for me, is just kind of a little bit of a recipe for disaster. So it depends. Some not so much. I can handle some raw sometimes.
Yeah. But you would say that this would probably be considerably easier than the same tea if you had it when it was young.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely now, as opposed to 11 years ago. And I think this tea would be great for an after meal tea. I coincidentally just had lunch, and I'm getting all of the body of this, all of the flavors of it. It's a nice contrast to what I just ate. So I do like that about raw, is that it really shows up from the flavor perspective. So
Yeah.
So James, if folks wanted to learn more about tea on the internet, what should they do?
Yeah, they should come check us out at tdb.org. You should. We're releasing lots of content about Pu'erh tea, which is gonna make puns all day as long as I'm wearing this shirt. And just check out our hit that subscribe button below. Check out tdb.org. Lots of stuff about raw pu'erh, ripe pu'erh, aged pu'erh, pu'erh that's good on the stomach, pu'erh that's not so good on the stomach. All of that fun stuff. So come check us out.
And until next time, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.